Our next honoree, Edmund Gaynes, has been working off-Broadway, yes, for a long, long time. He made his debut in 1956 at the age of 9 in Kurt Weill's Johnny Johnson at the Carnegie Hill Playhouse. Did anyone? No? Okay. I remember it, and I still thought it was great. A few years later, he graduated from kid to juvenile in the 1963 off-Broadway revival of Best Foot Forward, typecast as Monroe Hunk Hoyt, playing opposite Liza Minnelli and co-starring with Christopher Walken. In 1969, when he was finally old enough to sign the employment agreement himself, he performed the off-Broadway musical Promenade, which everyone still talks about, at the Promenade Theater with Madeline Kahn. I also have to mention that even if you didn't see those early works, Ed played slightly one of the lost boys in the 1960 television production of Peter Pan with Mary Martin and Cyril Richard. So everybody of a certain age here has seen his work, probably once a year for several years, right? When it was on NBC, I think. But what we're really celebrating Ed for today is his work as a producer. Ed has been a force in off-Broadway in reinventing the way that commercial off-Broadway theater can work in New York. We were talking about that earlier. Making it possible to produce plays and musicals in the scrappy sort of way that off-Broadway was produced in the beginning, when someone with an idea and a passion could mount a show, even if she or he did not happen to have $500,000. And that's a great thing. Ed always figures out a way to make it work. Thanks to his intrepid creative producing and his willingness to take a chance on smaller projects that might not otherwise get a toehold in New York, much less on 46th Street, Ed brought us Black Angels Over Tuskegee, about the Tuskegee Airmen, which ran for, 5 years, I think, at St. Luke's Theater. 0 Hour, Jim Brochu's Drama Desk winning portrayal of Zero Mostel and The Blacklist. Did anyone see that? It was terrific. Yes, wonderful. The Devil's Music, The Life and Blues of Bessie Smith. Pecan Pie, about the life of Molly Pecan. Danny and Sylvia, on the life of Danny Kaye. There's a crowd that remembers them and wants to see them portrayed on stage. And those ran, the Danny Kaye musical ran for 3 years at St. Luke's Theater. And he also produced the surprisingly sweet and funny Cougar the Musical, which is not what you think it is. It really is lovely. And as the owner and operator of St. Luke's Theater on 46th Street, a few doors down from Joe Allen's, he made it possible for us to see Dorothy Marsick's Sisters the Musical, and Seth Rudetsky and Jack Plotnick's Disaster, which was a lot of fun. It's a parody of the disaster films of the 70s using the music of the time, a riot. And also, My Big Gay Italian Wedding and My Big Gay Italian Funeral, which, by the way, are still running in rep. So you can catch those out. Ladies and gentlemen, honestly, I would never do that gag, and I apologize. Ladies and gentlemen, our legend of off-Broadway, please welcome Edmund Gaynes. Ed, come over here and take a picture.
Peter said I had to be at a certain age to sign contracts. Actually, I've been signing contracts since I was 7, and nobody's ever said anything about that. Thank you for this honor. This is from the Off Broadway Alliance, which consists of my cohorts, my co-conspirators, indicted and unindicted, and it's a great honor, and I appreciate it. 1956, my God, that's, you guys must think I'm 90. It's 58 years, 50, oh my, that's frightening. Anyway, I'm glad I was born at the right, it was, for me, it was the right, perfect time to be born, because it enabled me to experience that world of the 1950s, even though I was a child. Actually, as a child, you remember more than you do as an adult. I did 6 Broadway shows, 5 off-Broadway shows, over 100 TV shows, and I remember most of it almost verbatim, whereas anything I did as an adult, it blurs in my mind. So you have a lot keener appreciation for what you're living in at that time. So it was a great experience. And being there at that time, I got to experience live television for the last 5 years of its existence, and being able to work with people like Basil Rathbone and Fran Chattone and Boris Karloff and Julie Harris, Christopher Plummer. I'm so glad I didn't enter the business at the age of 20 and miss all that. Also, to the off-Broadway world at that time, it was terrific. I mean, for example, when I worked with Liza Minnelli, I played opposite her, we gave each other our first stage kiss. She was 17 and I was almost 16. But we did the scene really well because we rehearsed it a lot backstage. Yeah, Liza was the instigator. I was a very cute juvenile. Marvin Laird, who was the pianist, he used to call it passion on the piano stool. But, and then got to work with, my first show that Peter mentioned, Johnny Johnson, was directed by Stella Adler, of all people, and choreographed by Robert Joffrey. In the cast was also Gene Saks, the noted Broadway director, and other shows. And I got to work with Edward Albee on his first flop. I don't think he holds it against me. And Richard Barr and Clinton Wilder, who were his producers. Edgar Lansbury, Joe Baru produced Promenade. And can't forget Ted Mann. I did a show at Circle, the old Circle downtown, called F. Jasmine Adams, another one of my special one-week runs, and which I was well known for. But that was a great experience, and I loved Ted. Then going back to my wilderness years in Los Angeles, it was a time away from New York, but it actually prepared me for my return, because I ran theaters and produced plays in LA, and a lot of those plays ended up back in New York eventually, including plays that I picked up from other theaters. So about 20 years ago, I started coming back to New York and bringing shows here. And it was a wonderful reawakening of my New York experience. I still knew so many of the people, and I really immersed myself in it. And when I was able to acquire St. Luke's Theater, and then after that the Actors Temple Theater, it just made my job easier and more fun. And so we've been going on this for a number of years now, bringing shows to LA. I'm going back to LA on Thursday for meetings with other shows that we're going to bring back here. And it's been a great experience. It's been a great life in the theater. I want to thank people in my office, led, of course, by my wife, Pamela Hall. A wonderful director and a Broadway legend as an ingenue and leading lady in her own right, as well as Christine Evans, Cindy K. Schneider, Helena Woods, and Marianne Wright, who is helping out here. Marianne, step up and take a bow. Okay. And anyway, to conclude, thank you very much. It's been a great first 58 years, and I'm looking forward to the next 58 years. I'm going to try to make it happen. Thank you.